Welcome back to another episode of The Sleepy Nest, the podcast where we dive deep into the science, the struggle, and the absolute joy of getting your little ones to sleep. I'm your host, and today, as I look out my window here in Chicago at the swirling snow and the lake effect winds whipping off the water, I can't help but think about all the parents out there tonight who are staring at their thermostats and their piles of baby blankets, wondering, is my baby warm enough? Or is my baby too warm? Winter brings a whole new set of challenges to the nursery. When the temperature drops in places like New York or Minneapolis, our parental instincts scream at us to bundle, to insulate, and to protect. But sometimes those very instincts can lead us into some common pitfalls that actually disrupt sleep, or worse, create safety hazards. Today, we are breaking down the 4 most common baby sleep mistakes during winter, with expert advice to keep your nursery a safe haven. We're going to cover everything from the bundling trap to the hidden humidity crisis. So, grab a hot cocoa, settle in, and let's make sure everyone in your house gets a good night's rest tonight. Let's jump right into mistake number 1, the overheating overcorrection, or as I like to call it, the bundling trap. This is by far the most frequent mistake I see. When we feel a draft in an old Brooklyn brownstone or see the frost on the windows in Denver, we naturally want to put 3 layers of fleece on our babies. But here's the expert truth. Overheating is a significant risk factor for SIDS, and it also leads to incredibly restless sleep. Babies are not great at regulating their own body temperature yet. Their little systems are still learning how to shed heat. If you wrap them like a Thanksgiving turkey, they can't cool down and they will wake up sweaty, cranky, and uncomfortable. Let me give you a real-world example. I worked with a mum named Sarah in Minnesota last winter. She was terrified her 6-month-old Leo was freezing because his hands felt like little ice cubes every time she checked on him at 2 a.m. To compensate, she was putting him in a long-sleeve onesie, a heavy fleece footy pajama set, and then a thick, winter-weight sleep sack on top of that. Leo was waking up every 90 minutes, screaming. When we looked at the data, Leo wasn't hungry. He was roasting. His little chest was damp with sweat. We stripped him down to a simple cotton sleeper and a 1.0 TOG sleep sack, and he slept 6 hours straight that first night. The moral of the story? Don't judge a baby's temperature by their hands or feet. Circulation to the extremities is the last thing a baby's body prioritizes. Instead, feel their chest or the back of their neck. If they are hot to the touch there, or if they look flushed, they are too warm. Another example of this bundling trap is the indoor hat mistake. You see it all the time in cute Instagram photos. A baby sleeping in a knit beanie because it's wintry. Experts will tell you, never ever let a baby sleep with a hat on indoors. A baby's head is their primary way of releasing heat. If you cover the head, you trap all that heat inside, which can lead to dangerous core temperature spikes. Stick to the rule of thumb. Dress your baby in 1 additional layer than what you are comfortable wearing in the same room. If you're comfy in a sweatshirt, baby is likely fine in a long-sleeve sleeper and a sleep sack. Moving on to mistake number 2, creating an extreme environment. This usually goes one of 2 ways. Either the room is a walk-in freezer because the heater is broken, or it's a dry sauna because the radiator is cranked to 85 degrees. The Goldilocks Zone for a baby's room is actually cooler than most people think, between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. I know, for some of you in Los Angeles, 68 sounds like the Arctic, but for sleep science, it's the sweet spot. The mistake here often involves the space heater gamble. Let's talk about Mike in Seattle. Mike lived in an older house where the nursery was always 5 degrees colder than the rest of the house. To fix it, he put a portable electric space heater in the corner of the room. Not only did this create a massive fire risk, but it also created hot spots. The air near the heater was 80 degrees, while the air in the crib was still chilly. This uneven heating causes the baby's body to get confused. Plus, those heaters zap every ounce of moisture out of the air. Instead of a space heater, experts suggest using a high-quality, oil-filled radiator heater if you must, which stays at a consistent temp and doesn't have exposed coils. Or, better yet, just use a heavier TOG-rated sleep sack to bridge the gap. Another example is the thermostat war. In many apartment buildings in cities like Chicago or Philly, you don't have control over the heat. It's just on or off. If your room is hitting 75 or 78 degrees because of the building's boiler, don't just leave it. Use a fan, not pointed at the baby, but toward a wall, to circulate the air and keep it from becoming stagnant and stifling. Stagnant, hot air is a recipe for a wakeful baby. Just imagine trying to sleep in a stuffy hotel room where you can't open the window. It's miserable for us, and it's miserable for them. Now, let's get into mistake number 3, the cozy bedding trap. This is the most dangerous one. When it's cold, the temptation to put a soft, fluffy quilt or a beautiful hand-knitted blanket from Grandma into the crib is almost overwhelming. We see these winter nursery setups on Pinterest with faux fur rugs and thick blankets draped over the side of the crib. It looks so cozy, right? But for a baby under 12 months, this is an absolute no-go. Take the story of Jessica in Seattle. She had a gorgeous heirloom quilt that she wanted to use for her 4-month-old during a particularly cold snap. She thought, I'll just tuck it in really tight at the bottom so it can't move. But babies are Houdinis. In the middle of the night, her daughter wiggled down, the blanket came loose, and it ended up bunched near her face. Thankfully, Jessica saw it on the monitor and rushed in, but it was a terrifying wake-up call. Loose bedding, pillows, and quilts are the leading causes of accidental suffocation. In the winter, wearable blankets or sleep sacks are your absolute best friend. They provide the warmth of a blanket without the risk of covering the baby's airway. Another example of this mistake is the use of weighted blankets or sleep sacks for infants. While they are popular for adults with anxiety, the American Academy of Pediatrics has specifically warned against them for babies, especially in winter. The extra weight can make it harder for a baby to chest expand to breathe and can contribute to overheating. If you're worried about the cold, look for a sleep sack with a TOG rating of 2.5. That's essentially a duvet that your baby wears. It's safe, it's warm, and it stays in place no matter how much they kick. Finally, mistake number 4, neglecting the invisible factor: humidity and skincare. Winter air is notoriously dry. When we turn on our furnaces, the humidity in our homes can drop to desert levels. This leads to 2 major sleep disruptors: congestion and eczema. If your baby is waking up snorting or sounding like they have a cold, but they don't have a fever, it might just be that their nasal passages are dried out. Consider David in Denver. His son Leo started waking up every night at 3 a.m. with a bloody nose and a dry cough. David thought Leo was getting sick constantly. In reality, the humidity in their house was at 15%. We brought in a cool mist humidifier, kept it cleaned daily to avoid mold, and targeted a humidity level of about 40 to 50%. Within 2 nights, the cold disappeared, and Leo was back to sleeping through the night. Dry air irritates the throat and the nose, causing micro-wakes, where the baby isn't fully awake but is uncomfortable enough to keep them from hitting those deep, restorative sleep cycles. The second part of this is the winter itch. Dry air leads to dry skin, and for babies with sensitive skin or eczema, winter is a nightmare. I once worked with a family whose baby was literally scratching her legs until they bled in her sleep. They thought it was a behavioural issue or night terrors because she was so restless. It wasn't. It was the dry, cold air making her skin feel like it was on fire. The fix? A thick layer of hypoallergenic ointment, think slugging for babies, right before putting on those 100% cotton pajamas. Avoid synthetic fabrics like polyester in the winter if your baby has dry skin. They don't breathe and can make the itching worse. So, let's recap our winter sleep strategy to make sure you're not making these mistakes. First, stop the bundling trap. Check the chest, not the hands. One extra layer is plenty. Second, find that Goldilocks zone of 68 to 72 degrees and avoid the hazards of space heaters. Third, keep the crib boring. No blankets, no quilts, no pillows. Use a high tog sleep sack for that weighted feel without the danger. And fourth, don't forget the humidity. A cool mist humidifier and a good moisturizer can be the difference between a restless night and a peaceful one. Parenting during a winter storm is hard enough. You're dealing with snow shoveling, icy roads, and the cabin fever that comes with being stuck indoors. The last thing you need is a baby who can't sleep because they're too hot, too dry, or unsafe. By making these small adjustments to the nursery environment, you aren't just ensuring your baby's safety, you're ensuring your own sanity. I want to leave you with one last thought. If you're sitting there right now, listening to the wind howl outside your window in Boston or Chicago, and you're feeling that urge to go check the thermostat for the 10th time, take a breath. You are doing a great job. Your instincts to protect your baby are what make you a wonderful parent. We're just here to help you fine-tune those instincts with a bit of science. That's it for today's episode of The Sleepy Nest. If you found these tips helpful, please share this episode with a fellow parent who might be battling the winter blues. And don't forget to subscribe for more expert advice on navigating the wild world of baby sleep. Stay warm, stay safe, and most importantly, stay sleepy. Good night, everyone.